At the break of dawn on June 25, 2025, an unprecedented covert coalition led by Russia unleashed a carefully orchestrated barrage of stealth missiles targeting the United States' $13.15 billion floating fortress. Precisely at 6:47, on what seemed to be a tranquil June morning, the USS Abraham Lincoln suddenly found itself at the epicenter of a terrifying new conflict. Swarms of underwater drones began to close in silently. Stealthy cruise missiles skimmed dangerously close to the water's surface, and far beneath the waves, silent nuclear-powered predators lurked, waiting to strike. But in a dramatic and unexpected turn of events, American steel and tactical ingenuity flipped the trap on its architects, leaving debris scattered across the ocean floor and delivering a chilling message to the world. Join us now as we delve into how it all unfolded. At exactly 6:47, on this calm and serene June morning, the USS Abraham Lincoln was cutting through the cold waters of the North Pacific with a steady and regal certainty. This floating fortress, an immense vessel stretching over 1,090 feet in length, displacing more than 100,000 tons, and carrying nearly 90 state-of-the-art aircraft, stood as the very embodiment of American naval power. Powered by twin nuclear reactors, it could sustain speeds in excess of 30 knots indefinitely, a $13 billion marvel, bristling with layers of advanced defenses and carrying the lives and hopes of more than 5,200 sailors aboard. Flanking this massive carrier were 3 Aegis-guided missile cruisers, their vertical launch cells armed to the teeth with SM-6 interceptors, ever ready to engage threats. Below the surface, 2 silent Virginia-class submarines prowled, forming an invisible shield of stealth and lethality. Together, these ships and submarines spanned nearly 40 nautical miles of steel, sensors, and devastating firepower. To any observer, it was a picture of unmatched dominance at sea. The flight deck was alive with F-35C fighters poised for launch, catapults steaming, and radar dishes continuously sweeping a flawless sky. Inside the Combat Information Center, vast digital plots displayed nothing but commercial freighters and aimless fishing trawlers dotting the sapphire expanse. Every time this carrier sails, it carries more than steel and jet fuel. It carries the weight of our nation's promises. And if anyone thinks they can challenge that, let them come. We'll be waiting Admiral Thomas Everett, Pacific Fleet Commander, but beneath this calm surface, the first crack in that certainty began to form. A sonar operator aboard the USS John Paul Jones leaned forward, brow furrowed in concentration. His screen showed a loose pattern of faint sonar returns at roughly 50 meters depth. The movements were too organized to be pods of whales or drifting. Debris something was moving together, deliberately. Swallowing hard, he keyed his mic, CIC, sonar here. Multiple new contacts bearing 071, range 12,000 yards, depth 50 meters. They're maneuvering together, likely unmanned. A chill rippled through the operations deck. The alarms remained silent, but eyes hardened. Within moments, the task force shifted to condition yellow. Crews rushed to their stations. On the Lincoln's deck, Seahawk helicopter blades roared to life, ready to deploy dipping sonars in search of the mysterious contacts lurking beneath. For all its colossal might, the carrier strike group had become an unsuspecting prey, a massive, drifting target on a vast blue canvas, with something calculating and patient creeping just below the waves. Within 15 minutes, the USS John Paul Jones's sonar room tensed further. The suspicious returns had multiplied, now tracking over to dozen discrete contacts moving in deliberate, coordinated formations. These were no drifting mines or schools of fish. They were machines, UUVs, unmanned underwater vehicles, the latest breed of silent underwater predators. In the dim blue-lit Combat Information Center, the watch officer's voice cut through the silence. Plot shows 30-plus UUVs, consistent depth, maintaining intervals. This is coordinated. Immediately, the Lincoln strike group shifted to DEFCON 2. Sirens did not wail, but every sailor understood the sudden urgency in the clipped radio orders and brisk commands. Weapons crews moved with swift precision, unlocking ready missiles and prepping the phalanx close-in weapon system SIBs. Below deck, watertight doors were sealed tight. But the sea was not finished revealing its terrors. Almost simultaneously, the USS Shiloh, a Ticonderoga-class cruiser, detected fast-moving contacts on its SPY-1 radar, just 10 meters above the waves, approaching from the east. These were no ordinary missiles, flying erratically, hugging the sea surface to evade radar detection. They pushed speeds exceeding Mach 1.5. The combat computers flagged them instantly as drone-class strike vehicles, likely loiter-capable and programmed for terminal kamikaze attacks. On the bridge of the Abraham Lincoln, the executive officer gripped the edge of the plotting table. Multiple inbound boogies at sea-skimming altitude, bearing 082, ranged to 130 kilometers. Closing fast, a voice crackled over the group comnet. From the John Paul Jones, recommend maximum alert posture. These are coordinated multi-domain strikes. Somebody's running a playbook on us. Above deck, flight crews scrambled to secure aircraft. Seahawk helicopters lifted off, deploying dipping sonars in desperate attempts to locate the lurking UUVs. Electronic warfare teams pushed the SLQ-32 systems to maximum power, flooding frequencies with jamming pulses designed to disrupt the drone's targeting and communication links. In mere minutes, the strike group transformed from a symbol of unchallenged naval dominance into a tense, bristling fortress, surrounded by an invisible pack of mechanical predators beneath the waves, hunted relentlessly from the skies by swarming death machines. You're still with us, right? Don't look away. The danger is far from over, and it's closing in from all sides. At precisely 7:38 hours, the horizon itself seemed to shift. Over 400 kilometers out, beyond even the farthest confident gaze of the SPY-1 radar, something new was stirring. High above, U.S. reconnaissance satellites silently pinged sudden, intense heat signatures, the harbingers of a threat yet to fully reveal itself. Compact plumes of smoke flared intermittently along a dimly lit maritime boundary, marking the path of incoming threats. These were surface-skimming cruise missiles, their stealthy, aerodynamic shapes engineered for long-range saturation strikes. Traveling mere meters above the ocean's surface, barely 3 meters above the waves, they merged seamlessly with the natural radar clutter created by the undulating sea. Their advanced low observable coatings absorbed much of the scattered radar energy, rendering them nearly invisible to conventional detection systems. The powerful phased array radar aboard the USS Shiloh worked relentlessly to penetrate the sea clutter, peeling back layer after layer of interference. By the time it finally locked onto the missiles, they were alarmingly close, less than 180 kilometers away, closing in at a blistering speed of 600 knots inside the ship's combat. Direction center alarms sounded as the team sprang into action. Vampires inbound, came the terse report. Multiple radar tracks confirmed a swarm of low radar cross-section sea-skimming targets. The operators recommended the maximum intercept profile, preparing for an all-out defensive response. Within seconds, the vertical launch systems around the ship sprang open, releasing dozens of SM-6 missiles into the air. The missiles arced high into the sky before diving toward the incoming threats, their sleek forms tracing deadly trajectories. Simultaneously, the phalanx close-in weapon system SIBs guns whirred to life, spinning up with a metallic whine, while the normally last resort CRAM anti-missile systems were put on hair-trigger alert. The first wave of interceptors burst across the horizon, painting the sky with jagged streaks of flame. Explosions blossomed in rapid succession, 30, 40, 50 each, marking the destruction of an incoming drone or missile. Shrapnel and drone debris rained harmlessly into the sea. But the attackers had unleashed far more than a handful of weapons. As the Shiloh's interception network strained under the volume of targets, a cluster of cruise missiles broke through. The defenses, traveling at nearly Mach 0.9, these missiles closed in at high speed, evading interception in the final kilometers. Meanwhile, aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln, alarms screamed through the corridors damage control teams barely had time to brace when the first near-miss detonated, its shockwave violently shaking the forward starboard catapult. The blast shredded a parked F-35C, sending fiery debris tumbling across the flight deck like deadly shrapnel. Moments later, another explosion erupted just off the port beam. Although the carrier's armored hull held firm, a ruptured fuel line ignited flames that rapidly crept toward parked aircraft. Deck crews responded swiftly, wrestling foam hoses into position and battling secondary detonations threatening to escalate the damage. Despite the chaos, the Lincoln's massive nuclear reactors throbbed steadily, powering the ship forward at flank speed. Columns of thick black smoke curled into the sky, a grim testament to the calculated ambush orchestrated by an unseen enemy. This was no reckless barrage, it was a meticulously planned multi-domain probe, designed to overwhelm even the most advanced layered defense systems in existence. Beyond the radar horizon, an unseen adversary was rewriting the rules of naval warfare. And for the first time in decades, a U.S. aircraft carrier bore the scars of that new era. If you're intrigued so far, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss how this confrontation unfolds. By 0812 hours, the Abraham Lincoln's flight deck, though scarred and littered with twisted wreckage, had been partially cleared thanks to extraordinary damage control efforts. The deck remained warm beneath the crew's feet, blackened steel, still radiating residual heat. Despite the damage, the catapults were operational, and the carrier's nuclear reactors remained untouched. An unyielding engine of American might. Launch the birds, ordered the air boss with steely determination. Almost immediately, 2 MQ-5 Stingray drones rumbled down the deck. Their wings flexed under rapid acceleration before they leapt skyward, designed primarily for aerial refueling but heavily modified with powerful sensor packages ideal for wide-area maritime reconnaissance. Ascending to 25,000 feet, the drones pushed more than 200 nautical miles ahead of the strike group. Within minutes, their synthetic aperture radars and electro-optical infrared EOIR pods scanned the ocean, transmitting torrents of real-time data back to the Lincoln's Combat Information Center. Suddenly, a faint image resolved on the display. An elongated radar silhouette roughly 300 feet in length, moving steadily among a loose scatter of surface clutter. It bore the unmistakable signatures of a heavily modified cargo ship, Infrared. Scans revealed unusual heat signatures on the deck, consistent with advanced communications arrays and drone uplink systems. This was no ordinary merchant vessel, it was a control node, a mothership orchestrating the swarm of unmanned underwater vehicles, UUVs, and coordinating the sea-skimming drone attacks. Target confirmed, engage at standoff. The Lincoln's captain ordered with grim resolve. Nearby, the USS Mobile Bay responded. Vertical launch cells opened with a faint tremor as two naval strike missiles and S-MIS erupted skyward. The missiles quickly dipped low, skimming the ocean's surface as they weaved evasively to dodge any point defense fire the mystery vessel might deploy. Simultaneously, 2 MQ-9BC Guardian drones launched from a forward airstrip. Their flight, coordinated by satellite, banking south, they raced in on converging vectors. As the NS-MIS closed to within 10 nautical miles, the mothership erupted with desperate countermeasures. Chaff dispensers fired, infrared decoys blossomed, and sporadic autocannon bursts stitched the waves. But it was too late. The NS-MIS danced past the faltering defenses and struck the mothership in rapid succession. Twin geysers of fire and steel erupted from the vessel, gutting its communications systems and sending towering flames roaring up its superstructure. Overhead, the MQ-9BS loitered, confirming the kill. Moments later, they delivered a final blow, dropping precision-guided bombs that ruptured the stern and sent the ship listing heavily to port. The effects rippled through the battlefield instantly. Dozens of UUVs detected by sonar just hours earlier began behaving erratically, their movements confused and uncoordinated. As the encrypted commands that once coordinated the enemy forces suddenly disappeared, chaos erupted among their ranks. Several enemy vessels froze abruptly in the water, surfacing like lifeless metal corpses, their systems seemingly dead. Others began aimless circling, turning into easy prey for the lightweight torpedoes expertly launched by the Seahawks overhead. Back on the USS Abraham Lincoln, the Combat Information Center CIC buzzed with restrained celebrations. The radar and sonar screens, which moments earlier had been crowded with hostile blips, now displayed wide, empty sweeps as the enemy contacts vanished. For the first time that morning, the commanders of the strike group allowed themselves a collective exhale, a fleeting moment of relief. They understood well that this victory represented only one engagement in a much broader, hidden conflict now laid bare. Yet today, through a blend of unwavering composure, unparalleled naval coordination, and battle-tested technology, the United States Navy had wrested the initiative away from elusive adversaries operating in the shadows. By 09:05 hours, the surface battle was effectively concluded. On the distant horizon, the smoldering remains of the enemy mothership burned, sending oily black plumes spiraling upward into the pale morning sky. The Abraham Lincoln Strike Group had endured an intense, multi-domain assault fending off relentless drone swarms, stealthy cruise missile barrages, and relentless packs of unmanned underwater vehicles UUVs. Still, the seasoned commanders aboard the carrier knew that such a complex and synchronized attack could not have been orchestrated solely by surface assets. Something far more dangerous lurked beneath the waves. That suspicion soon proved terrifyingly accurate. Hours earlier, Patrol P-8 Poseidon aircraft had scrambled from a base in Alaska. Now arriving on station, each plane carried an arsenal of sonobuoys and Mark 50 for lightweight torpedoes, ready to hunt unseen enemies below the surface. Flying low over the open ocean, the Poseidons deployed their sensor arrays in wide, sweeping patterns, scouring the depths with unmatched precision. Within 20 minutes, the acoustic data began to reveal a chilling truth. Two large, nuclear-powered attack submarines, likely clandestine vessels operated by rogue Russian military factions or ultra-secret private military corporations, were maneuvering just beyond the reach of the Lincoln's escort ship's sonar coverage. Their reactors emitted faint hums, expertly muffled by cutting-edge noise reduction technology, but modern multi-static sonar networks were relentless, and their detection was inevitable. Inside the Poseidons, acoustic operators called out precise ranges and bearings. Once their target tracking stabilized, the mission commander issued a calm yet deadly order: launch. 2 torpedoes each, make it decisive. For Mark 50 for lightweight torpedoes detach from their pylons, plunging into the sea with deceptive grace. The water closed over their plunging holes as onboard processors activated homing sequences, sending faint active pings and continuously adjusting their courses to track the hostile subs. Below the surface, alarms blared inside the enemy submarines. The crew scrambled to initiate silent running protocols, attempting evasive maneuvers, diving deeper and executing sharp, unpredictable turns to break contact. Countermeasures blossomed in the dark water, noisemakers, thermal decoys, and false trails designed to confuse the torpedoes. Yet the Mark 54s were built for such challenges. Their advanced logic algorithms adapted relentlessly, ignoring many decoys by fusing passive acoustic bearings with subtle pressure variations caused by the sub's movements. Minutes later, the silence was shattered by the first devastating impact. A torpedo struck the stern of the lead submarine, unleashing a deep, muffled explosion that reverberated across the seabed. Soon after, a secondary blast indicated flooding. In the reactor compartment, the vessel pitched violently